you drop the lawsuit there. And so my question to you, big picture, is not, do you have a statement or a claim somewhere from a witness? But what do you do with the fact that everywhere that this has reached a judge, you've been losing in key states? And in some of those I just mentioned, you guys dropped out beforehand. What do you want people to take from this? Here's my big question. What is the point of all this?
Well, the point of this, of course, is to get to fair and accurate results because the election was stolen and President Trump won by a landslide. And how you're mischaracterizing this, I think that your viewers need to understand the truth of this. So let's not forget that President Bush actually lost at every single lower court stage before ultimately Bush v. Gore got to the Supreme Court. The Constitution and the law was applied fairly and accurately. And we have President George W. Bush, not then as the media, your network included, was calling President-elect Al Gore. That's simply not true. So even though we did withdraw
number one,
the
you just said you're using the second person and saying you, but I just quoted you a whole range of sources, including the Wall Street Journal. So let
me finish.
Look,
I'm trying to answer.
I think we have to take. I understand, but
the reason
you made a mistake. Hold on. Take a pause, and I will let you.
Election integrity issues.
I'll let you go again, but we have to take a pause. If you make false statements, you don't just run roughshod, okay? So you made a false accusation I had to deal with. Hold on, and then I'll let you go again. If you've seen this program, people get their turn. I had Rick Gates on here recently. He got time.
I'm trying to answer your false statements because you're accusing us of something that's simply not true. You're attributing lawsuit losses to us that were not on behalf of the Trump campaign. And you're
I said Trump campaign and Trump allies. I provided several sources. I'm going to keep moving forward and ask you about another item, and you can answer it or we'll move on. But here's a question for you. You can answer that's factual. What is the largest swing a recount has ever changed a result? What's the largest number of votes that have changed in a recount?
So not in a recount, but in Bush v. Gore, for example, in Florida, that was over 61,000 votes. The margin in Arizona, for example, is only around, or in Georgia is only around 14,000. That's very significant. What you're trying to do is piecemeal and break apart each of these different things to say, oh, that's not happening.
I'm trying.
So that was Trump lawyer Jenna Ellis giving an absolutely embarrassing interview on MSNBC with Ari Melber. And the context here is this is just after Trump and Emily Murphy from the Government Services Agency, the GSA, basically acknowledged that Joe Biden won the election and that he's going to be president because both Trump and the GSA basically okayed transition money and transition resources and information to go to Biden and his team. And that's crucial to actually getting to, late January and having a stable start as president. And Trump, in his message on Twitter, which I covered in my previous video, didn't say, I acknowledge that Joe Biden has won or I acknowledge that I have been defeated. But in essence, by saying, for the good of the country, these procedures need to be kicked into gear, he is acknowledging that Biden is the winner of the election. Maybe he feels it was still an unfair election, but that Biden won it. And so Jenna Ellis looks extra ridiculous going on to MSNBC as this is happening and continuing to insist that not only did Trump win the election, and maybe it was really close and that's why, the results aren't clear yet, but that Trump won in a quote-unquote landslide. Fake information, lies, misinformation, and disinformation throughout this clip and the broader interview. Just wall-to-wall an embarrassment. Remember, Jenna Ellis along with Rudy Giuliani were supposedly the least crazy members of the legal team. That's why they got rid of Sidney Powell. But now you have Jenna Ellis continuing to insist, even as Trump himself is starting to acknowledge, if only passively and implicitly, that he's lost, that actually Trump has won in a landslide. And you can see them continuing to move the goalposts. As you might have heard, Pennsylvania and Michigan basically moved to certify their results today. And once that happened, Jenna Ellis at the Trump campaign put out a notification saying, this isn't a big deal. These certifications are just boilerplate. We can still fight the results, and we're still going to fight the results, ensuring that, President Trump gets to have a second term. But if they're just boilerplate, standard, rudimentary things that don't matter whether they happen or not, why was Trump and why were Republicans that are loyal to Trump fighting these certifications. If they didn't matter, there wouldn't have been all of these fights to stop them. And so you can see what Ellis and Giuliani and Trump and company and Powell, when she was still part of the team, were doing, which is, have this big fight and say this fight really matters and we need to win this fight. And then they lose that fight. And then they say, well, it didn't really matter because the next fight is the bigger fight and we're going to win that one. And that's what they're arguing here. And similarly, and this is where, the embarrassment sort of kicks into overdrive for Jenna Ellis, is after she gives this awful interview, she goes on to Twitter to basically yell at Ari Melber and other folks at MSNBC for, not covering this story truthfully. And she says, hey, at Ari Melber and at Joyanne Reid, do you know how how a case gets to the Supreme Court? One side has to appeal a final opinion they disagree with. As I said, Third Circuit has granted our appeal, and we already have one case from PA pending before SCOTUS. Thanks, Ari, for having me. So basically what she's saying is you have to lose to win. Like you lose by winning, I guess, or you win by losing. And so it's like you get to the Supreme Court by losing lower court decisions. And that's true, but you would rather just win lower court decisions. They haven't won any. The goal would be, okay, we're going to try as best as we can to win, and we'll take cases up the ladder, but you don't want to lose all but one of your cases or all but two of your cases. You don't want to lose 30 plus cases and only win one. Like, that's not how you succeed. And the way they're losing the cases show that there's little chance upper courts will even hear their case, let alone rule in their favor. It's just not likely to happen right now. And so this shows, again, I think one thing above all, their intent was to steal democracy from the American people. Ellis and Trump and Powell and Giuliani and all the rest. That was their goal. But now it's all a grift. It's 100% a grift. They have to keep this going because the second they formally admit Trump has lost and they stop these legal fights, then they can't fundraise off of them. And again, only a small portion of this fundraising Trump has been doing is actually going towards the legal cases. Most of it is about retiring campaign debts and helping Trump build money for a post-presidential political war chest, which could be used for him to continue to influence the Republican Party or could be used by him to run again in 2024. But basically, he is still fundraising for political campaigns, not for this legal effort to save the presidency. But that's not what they're telling their most loyal supporters. If you go on their websites, you're getting dozens of emails a day, you're getting dozens of notifications a day saying, give $5, give $20, give whatever you can to stop the steal, to save the election. That's what's happening, but in reality, it's all a grift.